Good morning, Australia and New Zealand. Are you there? Over. Good morning. Good morning. I believe it is 7:21 in Australia. Is that true? Maybe. Let's see. 7:21. That is correct. Anyway, welcome everybody. It's the first live stream in a long time. This is Yard Sign 9. I'm a sign guy in Florida. I'm also left-handed. I'm a NASCAR fan. I've been watching a long time, and to see SVG out there is pretty cool. Of course, we've never seen anything like that recently here in the States. But I thought I would come on here about the time you guys in Australia were waking up and getting with it, and to see if any of you wanted to talk to us here in the States about NASCAR. And, if you have any questions, because, we've got questions for you too, man. Like, what the hell? Like, has it always been this way? Have your drivers, like, always driven this way? It's amazing. Anyway, I think I need to do a test and make sure the audio is good. The little thing down below says it is, but anyway, welcome to the stream. Check check 1 2 3. So also, I would like to discuss a couple of NASCAR terms um, and stuff like that, as well as the other upcoming races. But the thing is that I want to make sure that this is going out like it should be. So, ladies and gentlemen, I wrote an article yesterday. It should be posted at the bottom of the live stream regarding Shane Van Gisbergen, Southpaw Speed. And the reason I wrote the article was obviously everybody has tried to dissect everything he's done as far as, they talk about the heel toe method and there's clutch modulation. He's doing all these different things that kind of like we've never really seen done. Or maybe we have a long time ago, but basically he's able to take an old driving style that came about a long time ago because when they were shifting the cars in the turns on the road courses, um, that you have to push the clutch in to shift the transmission like most cars. Well, anyway, back in those days, um, the transmissions weren't built like they are today, and they weren't able to shift without using the clutch, because now common NASCAR drivers can shift, and the only time they need to use the clutch is coming out of the pits, when the car stops. But other than that, they can just shift as long as they blip the throttle. So the car will go in the next gear, either if they're downshifting or upshifting. But what SVG is doing is he's got a third foot, so to speak, because he's doing the heel toe method where he puts um, his gas pedal foot, his right foot, on the brake pedal with the ball of his foot, and he uses his heel to push the gas pedal and blip it. Then he can use his third foot, his left foot, to push the clutch. So him being able to push the clutch is a distinct advantage over all the other drivers, because they're driving the course. They're driving the way they drive on ovals, which is they use their left foot for the brake and they use their right foot for the throttle. And the reason they do this is whenever they're going down the straightaway, like at Daytona, they have to keep the throttle to the floor, and then they push the brake to slow the car down. That way the motor stays wound up as high as they can do it or keep it. And then when they take their foot off the brake, the car, has more recovery. It speeds back up faster than it would if you were to take your foot off the throttle and, go back and forth. And the other thing is too, it's faster than moving your foot back and forth. So both of their feet are taken up already. So the reason SVG is doing this is because they can shift their transmissions too without a clutch, but the cars in Australia are they have a locked differential, like a locked rear end. So whenever they turn, both of their wheels, like in our cars and most race cars, the inside wheel makes less revolutions than the outside wheel. So, the tires have to turn at a different speed. But in the cars they're driving in the V8 Supercar series, both of the rear wheels are turning at the same rate. And when they turn the car wants to keep going straight. So they have to turn the front more, which grinds some of the front tires off. And in the rear tires, one of them scrubbing or scraping when they're turning, because they're forcing the rear wheels to, scuff and bark and whatever, because they don't have a differential. So those guys in the V8 Supercar series have to do the heel toe method, where they use one foot for brake and gas and the other foot for clutch. Because when they do that, when they're going around the corner, they push the clutch in. It helps with shifting because it makes the shift smoother. But when they push that clutch in, it's removing brake from the rear end of the car. So whenever the drivers are going into a turn, they have a knob in the car called a brake bias knob, and they can control the brake coming from the front and the rear. So if they turn the knob one way, like if they want more rear brake, it's removing brake from the front too. So that hydraulic pressure, when they push the brake pedal, is split between the front and the back, and that knob lets them bias the front or the back. So when you push the brakes, when you're in your car, most of the brake is coming from the front because all the weight's up there. But anyway, by controlling that helps them turn the car, and it helps them keep it more stable. So anyway, since he's able to artificially have an advantage over everybody else by pushing the clutch pedal in when he's going around the turn, he's removing rear brake, okay? Because the two ways to stop the car are with the regular brake, the hydraulic brakes, the pedal, or like we all know, when you're going down the highway and you have a manual, you leave it in gear and you take your foot off the gas, you go, so the friction of the engine still hooked to the driveline without giving it throttle creates drag, and that slows the car down too. So when he's going in the turn, he's actually able to push the clutch a little bit, which disengages the driveline from the rear wheels, and it lets the rear wheels turn more freely. Okay, so they can, just do what they need to do. They're not bound up trying to make the turn. And then the other thing it does is, as he's giving it brake, or excuse me, let me finish the part about the rear brake. So since he's running more rear brake than everybody else, when he goes into the corner and he's slowing down to the point of the rears locking up, he pushes the clutch so the rears don't lock up, and then he continues to push the brake pedal more because he's got more pedal in the fronts, and then shifting all that weight to the front and turning the car makes the car turn better. So all those things put together, going through the turn, are what's given him lap times in. And I believe I heard AJ Allmendinger talk about it, and Corey LaJoie, about he's saving his tires by doing all these things. And so when he's downshifting, since he's using the clutch, he's not chirping the tires like the regular cup guys that run ovals all the time using 2 feet, one for throttle, one for brake. When they're shifting, they're not using the clutch. They're only rev matching to get the engine so it's smoother, but it's not as smooth as it is if you rev match and push the clutch in. So that's why the tires don't chirp, and he saves a little bit of rubber on the tires when he's, doing his thing. Now, granted, I've never driven a race car. I've just been a fan for a long time, and I'm left-handed. But the other thing is that I wanted to talk about was the left-handed aspect of SVG. I'm not sure it's talked about much, and I don't really know if it makes a difference, but it's sure something to think about. But he's driving the car with his dominant left hand and braking the car with his dominant right leg. And by the way, good morning, Australia and New Zealand. Currently, right now in Australia, it appears to be 6:32 in the morning. Is that right? 7:21 in the morning in Australia. 7:32 in the morning in Australia. Okay, so we're in beautiful Central Florida, where I'm at now. It's 4:30. So you guys in Australia, 4:30 plus 2 hours. So you're 6:32, 7:32. You're 3 hours, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, so it's 12 hours plus 3 in Australia. So good morning, Australia. 7:32 in the morning. I wonder what you guys have for breakfast all the way over there in Australia. So if you guys are just waking up to the news, I guess probably before you went to bed, he won. But what they've been talking about on the radio all day today, and by the way, I tend to listen to Sirius XM NASCAR radio. I don't think you guys have it in Australia. But anyway, it's like they have a morning show and all that stuff. But it's a call-in show, and the overwhelming thing, besides SVG, has been, did Denny, Denny shouldn't have let Ross. Denny should have let Ross have the position, because then Logano wouldn't have made it, and we don't want Logano to go to the Final Four, because Anyway, that's been a discussion. Back to the left-handed thing. That's been a discussion today. So if you're out there and you got a question, throw it up there. And if you're new to NASCAR, ask me anything. But the other thing is, whenever SVG wins, he signs a rugby ball with his left hand, and then he kicks the ball into the stands with his right leg. And I think that's very interesting. The fact that he's left-handed and he's right leg dominant, which I think most left-handers are. I'm right leg dominant. Everybody I've ever spoken to that I know has been right leg dominant. Obviously, we see lefties like kicking field goals, and soccer players and stuff like that. But anyway, I just have always been interested in left-handedness before SVG came on the scene. It wasn't until he really started winning, and then I noticed him signing the rugby ball. I thought, that's interesting. So how about in the middle of this, I'll just read you the article I wrote, and maybe we'll get a couple people. And then I also wrote another article about left-handedness that's more detailed, just talking about left-handedness. But this article, called Southpaw Speed, SVG, is more related to his tricks, what I just explained. Not his tricks, his methods. And then a little bit of left-handed stuff laid in there. So here we go. Southpaw Speed, right leg dominance. For the 5th time in the 2025 NASCAR Cup season, SVG won on a road course. And as always, he signed a rugby ball with his left hand and kicked it into the crowd with his right leg. Handedness isn't random. Only 10 to 13% of the population is left-handed. Random would be closer to 50-50. So while he's flipping and sometimes winning the same stage on a road course, he's steering the car with his dominant left hand, braking the car with his dominant right leg. This is completely opposite of what most NASCAR race drivers do, because most oval race car drivers steer with their non-dominant left hand while shifting and brake with their non-dominant left leg. Most drivers brake with the left foot because at times they hold the throttle to the floor with the right foot and use their left foot to slow the car down, like a Daytona or Talladega. That's called dragging the brake to let the car behind them catch them, because two cars on a speedway make more speed than one car. This keeps the RPMs of the engine up, and it's faster than using one foot for both pedals. This is the dominant method in the Cup Series, as most races are on ovals. SVG, however, is a right foot braker. He's using the heel toe method to gain a third foot. He uses his right foot to press the brake pedal with the toe or the ball of the foot, and presses or blips the throttle with the heel or the side of the same foot. His left foot modulates and presses the clutch pedal. The blipping of throttle and rev matching is necessary to shift the gears and keep from unsettling the car's balance during heavy braking in a turn. So the tricky part of him pressing the two pedals with one foot, his right leg, is being done with his dominant leg. His third foot, or his left leg, can now press and modulate the clutch pedal. By momentarily disengaging the clutch pedal, or pressing the clutch pedal, by momentarily disengaging the clutch, which is pushing the clutch pedal, the rear wheels can free roll during deceleration, allowing the car to turn more effectively. In his previous life as an Australian Supercar Series champion right-hand drive, they used a locked rear differential. This is because the cars are very hard to turn. They are forced in that series to use the heel toe method to help the car turn and save the tires. Drivers can slow the cars down with the traditional hydraulic brakes by using the drag of the engine while the car is in gear. So there's two ways to slow the car down: hydraulic brakes with the pedal, or the drag of the engine by leaving it in gear and not giving it throttle. Pushing the clutch pedal also takes engine braking pressure, which is the drag off the rear wheels, and it allows him to run more rear brake than most drivers. In the car, there's a brake bias knob or a valve used to control the distribution of hydraulic braking fluid between the front and rear brakes. The drivers can constantly fine-tune this inside the car, sometimes for every turn. Since he's able to remove rear brake pressure from the engine by modulating the clutch pedal, he can prevent the rear wheels from locking up under heavy braking and allow them to free roll. Using the clutch, downshifting and braking simultaneously helps shift the weight of the car forward, and this provides more grip at the front wheels, helping turn the car. Dale Jr., who's also another Southpaw, explained during the 2025 Prime Mexico broadcast that SVG is using the heel toe method while modulating the clutch. It provides an almost valve-like control over rear braking. So see, he's using the brake bias valve and the clutch to control rear braking. Most NASCAR drivers are shifting without using the clutch. Corey LaJoy on Stacking Pennies, also another Southpaw, ironically, mentioned that SVG is able to make his rear tires last longer because he's not chirping the tires during the shift like normal NASCAR drivers do when they shift, because they're not using the clutch, so it chirps the tires a little bit. But when he shifts with the clutch, he's not chirping the tires. SVG and other Southpaws, this is the left-handed part. I wrote, myself, SVG, and other Southpaws might benefit from cerebral lateralization, which is brain sidedness. For 10 to 13% of the population that is left-handed, brain research suggests a more active corpus callosum. I like to call it the corporate callosum, which is the bridge between the two hemispheres of the brain. It says this increased crosstalk may lead to a more integrated style of thinking and improved neuroplasticity, which is the brain's ability to adapt and form new neural pathways. This adaptability might enable SVG to better process and execute complex simultaneous tasks. Tasks at the same time, like those required in racing. If Denny Hamlin, and think about this, folks, too, I added this part. If Denny Hamlin were left-handed, would he have sailed it in there? Would he have sailed it into turn 3 on the last lap of Kansas? So I'm just trying to make the point that maybe he's also got an edge for processing all this stuff, that he's doing in the car. Anyway. And for physical execution, SVG has full right side brain power, right? While left hand steering, and full left side brain power while right foot braking. And since lefties adapt to all things right handed, it's possible he's processing more on both sides of the brain than on one side. Because he's absolutely smoking the field, and it's something to think about. I think maybe in 10 to 15 years, we may learn more about handedness, being a key to, what's really going on. Like I don't think we know, all there is to know about handedness yet. By the way, good morning, Australia. Good morning, New Zealand. 7:42 in Australia and New Zealand, and I'm here for you folks in the States as well. I just thought it would be neat to start a live stream during the drive home in the States. This is prime radio time, drive home, and it's also prime time in your part of the world for morning drive in Australia. So it seems like a good sweet spot to hit. By the way, I'm a sign guy. I write these articles and I put them on my website, CordoDepot.com, to sell yard signs. So I try to get traffic and make yard sign sales by writing these articles and talking about NASCAR. So if you're new to NASCAR and you got a question, hit me up in the comments. Also, I'd like to try this part of the live stream where we talk about NASCAR news and terms. And this is just a run of the microphone and the setup. But anyway, I think if you're new to NASCAR, the top 3 terms you need to know to watch a race would be lift, stickers, and scuffs. Because throughout most races, these are 3 things that you will either hear, see, or want to understand as you're viewing, the race. And, if you're new and you want to learn about NASCAR, these are the 3 ones you got to start with. Lift obviously means when you're going into the turn, or it's the last lap at Kansas, like which we just talked about with Denny. Denny and Bubba were going into turn 3, and neither one of them were going to lift, right? They were going to just, sail it in there, and whoever comes out on the other end first was going to win. But Chase got around them. So anyway, I remember, many times, all these drivers say it all the time, anytime on the last lap when they interview them after the race and something terrible has happened, they all say, it was the last lap, I wasn't going to lift. Lift means take your foot off the throttle, right? Take your foot off the accelerator, the gas pedal, whatever you want to call it, but the act of lifting your foot, that's what it means. That's the number 1 term in NASCAR. You need to know if you're new to NASCAR and you're just getting started. Number 2, stickers refer to the tires. Like whenever you buy tires at the store, there's a sticker on it that indicates it's new, it's never been on the road. Therefore, it's a new tire. Whenever drivers make a pit stop, they all want stickers. Sometimes they take 2 sets of stickers, 2 stickers, which is 2 tires. They're usually on the right side of the car, or they'll take 4. They never take 1, or that's a very odd situation. But stickers indicate that they're brand new tires. Scuffs are also tires, and scuffs mean the tires are still, they don't have all the goodie off of them yet. Like in qualifying, they'll generally get 2 laps on a set of tires in qualifying, and they'll keep those, and they're able to use those in the race. So sometimes, like at the Roval recently, since they were short on tires, they were burning their used tires first that they use in qualifying. So some of the pit calls, you heard them say, they're taking 4 scuffs, and some of the teams went with stickers. But anyway, that's what scuffs are. top 3 terms in NASCAR. This is a mic check for the anyway, on the inaugural live stream. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I'm a sign guy in Central Florida looking to sell yard signs via NASCAR news information and all that stuff. And I also talk about signs too, if you want to know. But as you can see, this is what we sell. CoroDepot.com. Get it on there. And I guess we could talk a little bit about signs real quick. All right, so this is the 2025 NASCAR Cup schedule. And we are down to all the way down to the round of, oh my gosh, what are we at here? Oh, look at that. We are down to, see my thumb right there? The round of 8. We just finished Charlotte, Roval. We got Las Vegas, Talladega, Martinsville. Whoever wins out of those 3 is going to Phoenix. So anyway, this is a yard sign on 10 millimeter coroplast as opposed to regular standard coroplast, which is this stuff. The regular yard sign stuff. Anyway, out here. See the difference, ladies and gentlemen? The difference between regular coroplast and 10 millimeter coroplast. This stuff is thicker. This stuff is the standard stuff you get yard signs on. And they both work great, for their designated applications. However, if you want a sign that is like you want to be able to put it up on 2 poles and it not bend or kink, so like this stuff, the biggest you can ship UPS without incurring a oversized charge is 36 by 46. In some places, I think go 36 by 48. But anyway, 3 foot by, that's about a 3 foot by 4 foot sign. That's a pretty nice size sign for like a piece of real estate. Like a lot of the bigger real estate signs you see are usually like a 4 by 8 sign, the same size as a sheet of plywood. And a 3 by 4 is just a little bit less than half of that. So anyway, you can ship it UPS and put it on 2 poles, and it's rigid enough to mount between 2 poles. So the regular kind of coroplast, you have to put a sheet of plywood behind it or something behind it because it's not rigid enough. But this stuff, man, I'm telling you what, it's awesome. And it's printed just like regular yard signs. It's direct printed on here. So, that's yard sign grade ink. It's not like super duper, well, it's not the most long lasting. In other words, if you have a clear coat on it or a laminate, it will last longer. But this is just basically a yard sign printed the same as all the other yard signs with thicker material. So this stuff, if you use a lot of colors like this, you'll get about a year out of it as far as fading. Like you would notice it was faded after a year. And then a sign, with lamination or coating or something like that. There's different grades of the coating. It just depends. But this stuff is, if you want a commercial sign, a cheap commercial sign for a piece of real estate, or you need a big menu board, stuff works good. Anyway, 10 mil Coro, yard sign 9 is the channel on YouTube, and Coro Depot is the place to buy it. So also, this is the back. They sell a lot of these on the website, except these are HOA signs. So people put these in their HOA neighborhoods and they say, like, look, see custom erase dry header or custom header dry erase. And then we have HOA meeting. So people buy these and it's dry erase and they put their, Tuesday, 9 o'clock, meet at the pool to discuss, HOA stuff. But anyway, sometimes people buy them and they change the header. So like, it can say, Thursday is spray day. And then, potluck dinner, 9 o'clock at the pool, whatever. But anyway, if you didn't learn anything today, learn that 10 millimeter Coro, if you have that option and you're going to reuse your yard signs and you put it on this, you will love it because it won't bend or kink, you know? And see the grommets that go in it, this 10 millimeter Coro, that's 0.39 inches. So that's it's just under half an inch thick. And this grommet is the thickness. If you get them grommeted, the grommet is the thickness of the, it's not like a regular grommet that smashes the thing. So anyway, you can see you can get it flat, printed, square, or you can get it cut out, with a shape. Okay. All right. So we've gone 30 minutes now into the inaugural live stream of Shane Van Gisbergen's left-handed win. So, peace, love. If you see this in the future, and you've got any comments, let me know. If you have any NASCAR questions, let me know, and I'll hit you on the next live stream. Peace and love. And good morning, Australia. By the way, I guess it's 4:52, 7:52 in Australia in the morning. 4:52 in Central Florida. Florida's in 2 time zones. All right, peace.